sustainable, and kind of what's the first next step for whatever you guys are looking for. I'm sure people have some different goals in here. Some people want to, a lot of people are probably going to be focused on weight loss, but there's also some people that want to build muscle, gain weight, whatever it is. It's trying to figure out how to create that next step for yourself and then build some habits that are actually going to help you get there. So we're not doing this kind of start up with something, fall off the wagon, feel like we need to start something different. We want to build something that we can really, a foundation that we can build upon. Hey, what's up, Ash? So what is good nutrition? I think everyone kind of has their own thoughts of what that is, right? For what I'm talking about, I'm thinking about things that support your goals, whether that's fat loss, performance, health, whatever it is. That's what we're kind of fitting into here. Built mostly whole foods, includes enough protein, carbs, and fats. I'm going to talk about macronutrients, kind of break them down, try to make them simple for you guys. And then something that's consistent and sustainable. Sustainable and consistent are two of the biggest things that I want to just kind of like talk a lot about today, because so many people make mistakes just with the process that they're going about making these changes and you know achieving their goals with nutrition. So that's two things. Consistent and sustainable are huge. So these are just some overarching principles. Failing to plan is planning to fail. I saw something that a coach I really respect. He was talking about nutrition. He was saying, he's coached for 15 years, and he was saying, I'm truly starting to believe that nutrition about, making changes with people is 80% planning and 20%, like understanding. So much of it is preparing, getting yourself in a good situation to be successful, preparing your environment, obviously preparing your food at some level. But so much of it, if we're not doing any level of that, if we're not prioritizing planning, you're going to have a hard time really doing something that's sustainable over time and being consistent with that. Energy balance drives weight change. So calories is going to really matter here. But when we're thinking about good nutrition, it's something that's going to give you energy to be able to do the things you want to do in life, your normal daily stuff, but also any kind of physical activities you want to take on. Macronutrients are just going to be supporting performance and health, so protein, carbs, and fats. Food quality impacts health and society. So whole foods versus processed is something I'm going to talk a lot about today, because I think that's something people ask about all the time, about processed foods and kind of like what the role they should have in your diet. Consistency beats perfection every single time. Sustainability over these extreme changes is going to be the main thing we're going to talk about today. So why do diets generally fail? Trying to make too many changes at once is something that a lot of people run into. All right. So if we're trying to make a long-term sustainable habit change, if we try to do too many things at once, almost always it's going to fail, because one or two of them are going to be too hard to do. Then we're going to start to kind of lose confidence on the whole thing, and then we'll just go off the rails. So one thing that we want to talk about is just kind of deciding what that main thing you want to change is, that main habit that's probably going to have the highest leverage for you, and then going from there and really attacking that, making sure you're actually adhering to that habit change so that it becomes actually a habit. It becomes automatic for you, and then adding habits from there. All right. Next thing is unrealistic expectations. Got the guy with the 12A. Oh, look, at least. So especially with social media, there's even more of this, but there's always been magazines, things on TV. Yeah, maybe that's not what anybody wants, but but some people want something somewhat like this. But the idea is just, if you're comparing yourself to these unrealistic expectations, you're going to set yourself up for failure. And so much of this is just figuring out, what do you actually want? Why do you want this goal, right? And then being realistic with what that's really going to mean for you and the timeline that has to do with. And that's kind of going into the next thing. Most people don't fail, they just stop. These things take a long time. I had a business mentor say to me one time that, being successful in business isn't actually that much harder than you think it would be. It just takes a lot longer, and that's true with most things in life. It's not getting on a different diet, eating clean, or kind of getting to your success with whatever your nutrition goals are. it's not actually that hard. Like prepping food isn't that hard. Making the right decision isn't that hard. But the changes, they take a long time. To actually see the results, it takes a long time. So you have to stay with it and be consistent for a long time. So too many people just get frustrated that they're not getting the results in the timeline that they want, and then they quit, right? But there are actually a lot of times with those people, when I'm working with them, I'm seeing progress. We are seeing progress. It's just not happening as fast as they want. So keeping that in mind and being realistic with the timeline is really an important part of it. Drastic change equals results we can't sustain. Um, I'm sure you guys have seen so much marketing around people, they'll show comparison shots like this and they'll say 6 weeks and or 2 weeks and you do this thing and it's all ridiculous. But the reality is sometimes you can make that. You can lose 20 pounds in 3 weeks if I do something completely drastic, right? Like I'm only eating, it's a liquid diet, or I cut out all sugar and all, it's like, yeah, you can do that, but that's never something you're going to stay to. And anything that is drastic like that is never a good option because you're going to yo-yo. You get that effect of can't sustain it. It's way too drastic. It's way too, you know, has way too much impact on your life, right? It's just too hard to actually do. So then you drop off and then things kind of go right back to where they were before. Because usually you get frustrated that you fell off, right? You get upset with yourself, kind of lose confidence on the ability to actually make these changes long term. This is, I think, one of the biggest ones. I left at the end because I think it's the problem I deal with the most with people is an all or nothing mentality. And people have this in the gym as well, for sure, with training, where they're either every single day, all out intensity, you know, 2 weeks in a row, and then they just completely fall off. It happens all the time. Or you see these people that make long, sustainable progress 2 to 3 times a week for 10 years and they make way more progress than these people who are going so hard every single day for that month or however long it is, right? So all or nothing with diet is, I think, something I see even more often, where it's like they decide they need to make a change, they decide they really need to lose weight. So then for 2 weeks, they're just no sugar, no, like only clean food. No, they just go crazy with it. And then to the point where there's just no way that they can sustain it. They fall off, they go back, and then they're binge eating. And it's just like this vicious cycle that causes a lot of instability mentally, but also it's just like it never works. It's not the way to go. So, first step, before we can really decide what the habit is, the first thing you're going to do, we kind of have to decide, assess your starting point. We got to see where we're at. So one thing to look at, are we doing these basics? All right. And some of these are way harder than others, but I would say that these are the things that long term are going to have the most sustainable benefits for people. So 0.6 to 1 gram of protein pound per body weight a day. Those are sort of the recommendations for most people, especially if you're weight training, to be able to sustain muscle, build muscle. And I'll talk a little bit later about what the benefits of protein are, but I would say that's a huge staple for everyone that we should kind of be shooting for. Eating a serving of vegetables with almost all meals. I know most people in here are probably not doing that. That's a hard one for a lot of people, right? But that's where you're going to get most of your micronutrients. A lot of your vitamins are going to come from vegetables. There's going to be a lot of benefits that are going to lead to you feeling better, but also make it easier to do the weight loss and managing your weight, whatever you're looking for. Drinking a half your body weight in ounces of water. That really is the bottom line of the recommendation is about 0.5 grams per pound or ounces per pound body weight. So that's definitely, most people don't hit that as well. And it's something that benefits you so much from an energy perspective, from a being more full, satiety standpoint. There's so many benefits to being fully hydrated. And there's also so many issues that people have if you're not hydrated. It's going to make you more hungry. It's going to make you more tired. All the things that help you stay along with whatever path you're looking to do. If we're dehydrated, that's always going to make it harder. It's going to be a problem. Sleeping 6 to 9 hours a night. This is something that I've always struggled with, and it's something I need to constantly remind myself of. It's like why I have a Whoop is it reminds you like you're not getting enough sleep, you suck. And I need that. I need to get told that I suck. But but yeah, I mean, this is for recovery. So if you could be training hard in the gym 5 days a week, eating, clean, eating well. But if we're not sleeping well, all the changes that you want to make from a body comp perspective are not going to happen. Not to mention if we're low on sleep, it's going to mess us up from a hormone perspective. There's a lot of things that it's going to affect, and so this is going to be another staple. Limiting processed food intake. I'm not going to go too deep into that because I'll talk more about that a little bit later, but I would say, a basic. Spreading meals throughout the day. Everyone's a little different with this, but what I really mean by this is just making sure that you're not drastically hungry at any part of the day. So, there are people that intermittent fast and, they don't eat breakfast and they eat later there. Like, that's all okay. There are different things that work for different people, but it's just making sure that you are managing your meals and preparing so that you're not getting this kind of thing where you're so hungry and then you binge eat and there's this up and down of energy and this up and down of just kind of when you're taking in your nutrients. Another one is just knowing what's in your food. That's a huge, huge fundamental thing. So are you looking at food labels? When you eat something, do you know how much calories are in it? Do you know the portion size? Do you know how much protein? Like, these things are really important for you to understand and be able to make a plan for yourself to make some changes. So how do we do on the basics? How do you guys do on those things? Is there any big gaps for anybody? That's something to add in. Um,
Fruits
well,
of fruit.
fruits and fruit.
It's
That's a
good.
carb, but it's still good. Still good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure there are things up there that where there are some gaps, right?
Yeah.
So we want to decide, which one is going to be the habits that where you're most off base with, and we want to address that. So, you know, this is where talking to a professional, talking to someone who knows a little more about it, might be able to help you find what that thing is for you, the one that's probably like the highest leverage for your goals. But that's kind of how we want to think about it. Like, look at those basics. Where's the gaps? And then I need to try to make a plan to address these things. So this is kind of an example of how these changes might happen over time. So a really common need is going to be low protein, right? So we talked about the zero point 0.6 grams to 1 gram per pound. So this could be like a possible habit trajectory. So very common in America, lunch, that there are people that have 2 slices of pizza. They go to the place next to their work or whatever, they have 2 slices of pizza, right? So there's no protein there really, like very, very minimal. So if we wanted to add this to this, it's not going to go for most people. It's not really very realistic to go from I'm having 2 slices of pizza like almost every day for lunch to have grilled chicken breasts and vegetables and fruit, right? That's just like not that realistic. So a better way to think about it and kind of how we want to make these changes is more like this. Next time it's for a week or two, you do slice of pizza, vanilla Greek yogurt, right? You're just making a little change. You still have the pizza, you're still kind of sticking to the routine that you're on. We're just adding protein in there. That's the other thing. I'm not taking the thing away, I'm adding in. That's almost always going to be a lot easier for people to make changes. Next time, we're doing a slice of pizza with grilled chicken, vanilla Greek yogurt. So we're adding some protein onto the pizza, okay? Grilled chicken wrap, vanilla Greek yogurt. Maybe this is like a month down the line, 6 weeks, 8 weeks down the line. So it's just like, I think people get really scared about nervous about making changes in their diet because they're just like, it's too hard. Like they think about to go from that 2 slice of pizza to the grilled chicken and fruit or something. It's just the idea of it just seems kind of crazy to them. But if we think about it like this, I think it's a lot more palatable. It's a lot easier to kind of understand how you could make those changes. And it's just piece by piece. And that's the same way we want to attack these habits in general, is just piece by piece, one at a time. Try to make it easy like this. 1 slice of pizza, vanilla Greek yogurt. Like, you find a Greek yogurt that you like, yeah, you just bring that with you. You have the slice of pizza still. Like, that's pretty easy to do. That's an easy change and a realistic change, right? Like, the Greek yogurt doesn't even take any preparation. I just buy it at the store, I have it ready, I bring it over. So that's how we kind of want to think about this. So the reality is we need a lot more than motivation to be successful, right? We need tools. Tools are kind of the most important thing. So that's kind of what I want to try to provide a little bit of today. So one tool is tracking your food. And I will say, as I say down here, it's not for everybody, but awareness really does precede change. If we don't have any awareness of what we're eating, it's going to be really hard to know what we need to do to get the results we want, right? So I need to actually be understanding what I'm taking in, understanding what kind of habits I actually have right now, which ones are positive, which ones are negative, right? So especially, if you're using like people sometimes will write it down, which definitely works. These days, most people are probably going to use an app for it, right? And what it can be really helpful with is understanding how much calories are in your food, understanding portion sizes, like weigh things out for a little bit and just try to get a sense of, okay, oh, that is what 400 calories of chicken looks like. Oh, that's what 30 grams of protein looks like with chicken or beef or whatever. And just having that idea in your head can help so much because some people are eating high quality foods. They're eating whole foods, but they're just eating too much of it. And they don't really, their eyes, they can't really tell how much is in what they're eating. And that's all it is. Like, that's the only thing stopping them from weight loss is just the fact that they're eating too much of things. They don't understand
Drinking, like the
or drinking too
like
much.
a
Yeah.
Panera Refresher that somebody found out was 330 calories. So there's 70 grams of sugar. But yeah, the tracking is
No, huge.
key to like, yeah,
That's the thing. Yeah. I
figure
mean,
that out. Yeah.
a drink that you've been having every day that you didn't even think about. It's like, oh, that's 150 calories, and it actually doesn't do really anything for me nutritionally, and it doesn't fill me up. And then you start to make different decisions around it. It starts to make you think about the foods you're eating a little differently because I'm like, oh, do I want this that bad that I'm gonna have it's 300 calories and it's like this big and like I don't even like it that much. Like it's like, you know what I mean? Like I can probably do better. So I think for a lot of people, tracking can be huge. Even if I know long term it can be really challenging for people, but even in a short term, like do it for a week, do it for 3 days, and you'd be surprised with how many things you learn from that, and really can be helpful moving forward with when you want to try to make different changes. As I said, not for everyone. Anyone with like a history of an eating disorder, a lot of times that's not a good thing for them. It can cause a lot of, I've seen it cause more stress for people, which is not what we're looking for. We're looking for it to just help you learn a little bit more, give you a little bit more perspective, and awareness. And for certain people, because you're like writing it can just make them like be a little bit too focused on food all the time. So that's also not what we're looking for. We're looking for it to make it easier, but it can be a great tool. Um, Next tool, which I've seen be very successful, is thinking about using the stoplight scale. So just basically taking all the things you eat and categorizing them. So I'm kind of doing the work of making the decision making ahead of time, so I don't have to get that in the moment. What should I be doing? And then most people in the moment are going to turn to the easier, more palatable, more processed foods. That just tends to be what people do. So if I can take all the foods I eat, red light is going to be something that I know I don't feel good when I eat it. I know it doesn't support my goals, and it probably just, it affects other things, other parts of my decision making. I probably just don't want this around me, right? So I'm not going to buy it. I'm going to try to just kind of avoid these kind of foods for the most part. Yellow foods might be something that you really do enjoy, but you also know don't really support your goals. Might be super caloric, might be really just high sugar or something like that. Like, like for me, a good example of this is I love like gummies. That's like my favorite candy.
Okay.
But I'm not gonna buy it. Like I'm not gonna have it in my house because I know like if it's in my house, like that whole pack's getting eaten. Like I will crush that pack. But I like them. So, so like what the kind of like framework I've made is just that like if I go to the movies, I get my gummies. You know what I mean? It's just an easy decision making thing where it's like I'm at the store, I'm walking by the gummy, I don't look at them. I'm just not gonna buy them because I know they're just like doesn't support my goals. If I have them in the house, it's not gonna be good. But so there are a lot of things like that where it doesn't mean you're basically just creating guardrails, right? I'm not saying restriction, I can't have this thing. I'm just creating a little bit of rules around it so that you can kind of manage, all the decisions you have to make. Yeah, exactly. So that can backfire, right? If you're saying like, oh, I only drink when I go out to dinner, but you go out to dinner 5 nights a week, right? It's like, so obviously that has to be managed, but I don't go to the movies that often, so it works out. And then the green light foods are the things you know are good for you, that make you feel good, and they're supporting your goals. And I want these things all around me, right? Like I want to put my environment, I want to have my kitchen, my workspace be filled with these foods. That's kind of what I think about. These are always go foods. All right. And for a lot of people, I write here, a lot of people that's going to be lean proteins, fruits, vegetables, legumes, things like that. Um, so building your menu from the stoplight scale, like I said, you're going to kind of identify the things you eat on a regular basis, put them in categories. And the way I want to evaluate this is, yeah, how does it make me feel? Does it support or hinder my goals? Um, and how else does it impact my like decision making? I think the alcohol is a really good one for this because a lot of people, they might drink alcohol on a regular basis, and when they do, they make bad food choices, right? But outside of that, they actually do pretty well, maybe. I think marijuana for a lot of people, same idea. So I want to think maybe if these things are affecting my decision making in general, maybe they're not something I want in my diet regularly. Depends, and that's different for everybody, right? How important is the goal to you? And you have to make those decisions, right? Of where these things should fit into your life. And I think the important point I'm trying to make is make these decisions ahead of time. I want to get rid of this decision fatigue of I'm at the store, I'm at the restaurant, like what should I have? What should I focus on? Like you just make the decision ahead of time and it makes it a lot easier to be able to follow through with the things you have, the plans. So yeah, goal, build awareness, improve consistency, and create kind of sustainable habits. So yeah, this is kind of building on that. It's similar principle, but the people who succeed long term aren't more disciplined. They built an environment that makes consistency easier. I think this is huge with nutrition, but also it's the same idea with workout stuff. It's like if I for people who really struggle to get their workout in after their workday, right? Like they have a long day at work. They maybe get stressed by the things at work. So by the time it's come 6 o'clock, the reality of you going to the gym and getting a good workout in maybe is just super low, right? So if that's the case, but I really have some fitness goals, maybe that's not going to be the good environment for you to be successful, right? I'm not really setting myself up to succeed. Maybe I need to make a change and actually start figuring out a way to get it in the morning, get it in on the weekend, whatever it is. But that's kind of how I want to think about these things with nutrition as well. So going with the light scale thing. uh, Green light foods I want nearby and convenient. Red light foods far away and inconvenient. I just want to make it as challenging as possible, something I actually have to leave my house to go get, right? Um, Stock up on green light foods, and then yellow light foods. I'm making decisions. I'm building them into where and I want to have them and how much I want to have them in my life. All right. So it's simple and easy. It makes the decision fatigue a lot lower. So going back to that consistency over intensity idea, 80% adherence to to your goals or to your a certain diet plan or whatever, for most people is going to get them all the results they need. So things do not need to be perfect, and we really want to get away from that idea of being perfect. So this is just kind of like it's like kind of stupid, but it's just showing a bunch of meals over time, right? And it's like, all right, on Friday night we go out to dinner with my friends, and I have some alcohol, I have like a higher calorie, I have a burger or something like that. But then all the other meals, I get back on track over the weekend. I have a treat on Sunday night. It's like if as long as 80% of the time we're kind of on board with exactly what we're looking to do, you're going to get all the results you need. It's just over time, right? It's just going to take a little long. If I did 100%, would it be faster? Yeah, but I wouldn't be able to do that. I wouldn't be able to be consistent with that over time. So it's kind of stupid to even think about, right? And so even if in 80% it's high, even honestly, I would say very high, right? So maybe you're not starting out at that. You're starting out at trying to be 50%, right? And we're just building on that. So, but that's the key thing. Where are we right now, right? If we're at 20%, we're really just trying to go to 30%, right? And that's not, yeah, it's like not a great place to start, but that's where everyone is going to be where they are, right? And so that's where assessing, getting some realities, building some awareness first is really important. And then we can start to have an idea of what this next step is and how consistent and where, on this scale do we want to really be or what's realistic. So a lot of people struggle to understand calories' role in weight loss, weight gain, performance, all of it. This is super, 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 super simplified, but calories in versus calories out is how we kind of want to think about things for the most part. It's a really simple way to think about it, but it's kind of reality. Calories in is less than the calories out, weight loss. Calories in is more than calories out. Weight gain, if it's even, you're pretty much going to maintain. Okay. So there's other factors and variables that come into play here. So I'm going to kind of like walk through a little bit more. So theoretically, 3,500 calories is a pound of fat. So if you decrease 500 calories a day off your maintenance calories, so imagine you're eating a certain amount every day, you're eating the same, let's say you're eating the same thing every day, right? And your weight's just been the same for months. So that's probably like your set point of calories for the most part. So if I actually, if I could consider that, we're locked in, that's our set point. If we did 500 calories down each day, you're going to lose a pound a week. And that's like locked in, right? Same thing in the inverse, right? Unfortunately, it doesn't usually work out that simply. And the reason for that is everyone's metabolism is a little different, right? So that what the calories going out of that equation is different depending on who you are. The younger you are, metabolism is going to be higher. Different people have genetic predispositions to that. Obviously, your just general activity in a day. If I'm driving to my job 40 minutes away and then I'm sitting all day, my resting, the amount of calories I'm burning in my normal life is a lot lower than somebody who's on the gym floor coaching for 5 hours or whatever, right? So there are a lot of factors into that out. It's not just your workouts, and that's kind of where it's not quite as simple. But from the perspective of understanding calories role, that is still how we want to think about it. If I can decrease my calories, I'm leading more towards that weight loss side of things, okay? But eating less calories doesn't mean eating less food. I actually really like these kind of infographics that show you, I can, a pound of strawberries and then like one Kit Kat, and it's just like, and this is a really powerful one, I think. Like this is a meal at Chick-fil-A, right? 2,000 calories, and this is a whole day's worth of eating, right? And that's where I think the whole foods versus processed foods really comes into play, because the more processed foods are, and Chick-fil-A isn't even necessarily the best example of that, but really processed foods are going to be high calorie, not as nutrient dense, and also they're going to be highly palatable. So, people are basically in a lab trying to make these foods easier to eat and less filling, right? Where if I'm eating whole, unprocessed foods, fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, things like that, naturally they're going to be more satiating. You're not going to, it's really hard, if you've ever tried it, to overeat vegetables, fruits, and meat or lean proteins, right? But it's super easy to overeat, a Chick-fil-A
Yeah.
shake or whatever, right? All these things, it's super easy to hit 2,000 calories without you even thinking about it and realizing that you're full at all. So that's the kind of the big powerful thing when we think about calories. And another reason why tracking your food can be really helpful, because I can start to have a more awareness on the decisions I'm making. So not that I'm saying Chick-fil-A is the worst thing and you should never eat it or anything like that or anything, right? It's not even thinking about things as good or bad foods. But if I have a weight loss goal and I'm eating this thing that is really high calorie, not going to fill me up, really high processed, that's not the best choice for me, right? I can probably make a choice that's going to still make me feel good. I'm still going to enjoy that food, but it's just going to be way better for my goals.
Tuna packets?
Yeah,
They look, yeah.
packets. We got a baked baked potato at the bottom here. So, and like things like a baked potato is a good example, or even like sweet potatoes, things like that. Like very, it's carbohydrate, going to give you a lot of energy, but very filling, high fiber, super satiating. So it's just like those are the choices I want to make, because it's just going to help me. I'm going to feel full. I'm going to feel good. Most of these options still are good tasting. It's not like we're eating just like plain broccoli and
Yeah. Quick add, you're right on the processed foods. I always use this example of chicken nuggets, for example, that it's actually like pasted together chicken. So when you eat it, there's very little chewing that's involved. They're like slider foods. So you take them in, and it's not even enough to trigger the fullness hormone, leptin, as opposed to a piece of chicken, which is dense. You have to chew it, and your body actually knows, oh, yeah, I'm getting a little something in there. And it's purposeful that the fast food people do that so that you can consume a lot of that. It literally are like slider foods. So they go
Yep.
down and you're not even realizing how many calories you've had, and and you're not feeling as full as if you had, again, the whole food and fiber and all the good stuff. So
Yeah,
that's a good one.
and that's sort of what, yeah, that's like the highly palatable. Like you see same thing with like some chips you'll buy. It's just like the texture on it. It's like I don't even, yeah, I'm not even chewing anything. It's like dissolving in my mouth.
Right.
It's just like,
Right.
so it's just so easy to eat like a whole bag of those and not even feel like you really ate anything. So it's just like,
Yeah.
that's how I wanted to give this visual. So because I think a lot of people think, oh, I'm trying to lose weight, I got to eat less. And that's actually not the reality. For a lot of people who eat processed food on a regular basis, it's actually going to be eating like way more than so that you're actually being able to fuel yourself better. You're going to feel better because you're going to have higher energy. You're eating more protein, so you're going to probably be building more muscle, maintaining more muscle mass. All these things, like we can actually feel a lot better and feel more full just by kind of changing what we're eating. And that's where that kind of like whole foods matters a lot. I'm going to go very briefly also trying to make this kind of simple with macronutrients and just kind of the value, what they bring to us and kind of where they fit into our diet. So why protein matters. I think that out of the macronutrients, this should be the main priority for most people. It's also where most people have the biggest deficit, I would say, just by talking to a lot of people and working with people on nutrition. It's going to be the building blocks for all the cells in the body. We need protein for almost every metabolic activity in the body. Builds and protects muscle, like truthfully is the building blocks for muscle. It's hard to build muscle without having an adequate amount of protein. You basically, it's really almost can't do it. Protects muscle, keeps you full for longer. So fats and protein are going to digest a little slower, so they're going to be a little more satiating. But protein, for the most part, out of all the macronutrients, is going to be the most satiating. And also, what Sue was talking about, protein and fats are going to, it actually costs more calories to even like eat them, to digest them. It's going to cost, your body's going to be burning more calories. Not that that's a huge amount, and, but it's something to know. So what we want to kind of focus on, spreading protein across 3 to 5 meals a day. Like I want to try to get a little bit of protein with every time I eat, if I can. Aiming for 25 to 40 grams per meal is a good way to think about it. Obviously, you're a bigger person, you're 200, 180 pound, 200-pound person. We're on the more 40 to 50 side, right? If I'm a little smaller, that 25 is a good place to start. But we also want to think about its daily intake. I want to think about trying to get that number throughout the day. So like, yeah, if I can split it up into little 40-gram pieces, that's great. Or if I can't really do that for my schedule, whatever, like, all right, if we can get it all in second half of the day, that's fine, right? It's just the daily intake with all these things is a lot more important than when I do it, the timing of it. The timing stuff is more important for when we're talking about like performance, athletics and stuff, or in like workout. So we're gonna send you guys all this thing so you can kind of read through the whole. You'll have this as a resource if you want. But I think this is a nice little system to think about because I don't want to look at foods as good or bad. It's more just where do they fit, right? So for proteins, eating more chicken breast, turkey, lean beef, fish, eggs, Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, tofu, lentils. These things are going to be where we really want to prioritize mostly for our proteins. Eating some, and yeah, you can go through. I don't want to read through the whole list, but basically, like the left side is just going to be higher quality, very nutrient dense, protein dense, stronger foundations. As we go toward the right, it's just a little bit more calorie dense, less protein dense. Things like bacon and like it is a source of protein, but it's also a lot of fat in it, very caloric. So if I'm thinking about this from a weight loss perspective, kind of moving more towards that green. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no. Yeah, deli meat's like not as much. Yeah. And that goes along with the highly processed thing. But in the scheme of things though, if I'm thinking about my goals, right? And it really depends what you want. So if you're really worried about kind of like some of the, the things that are associated with deli meats, like there's like percentage risk with cancer or things like that, like associated with it, then not a good choice, right? But if I'm kind of really worried about body comp and it is a pretty high protein, low calorie source. So again, it's weighing what you care about and then having those things fit into your life. So yeah, you should know that there's increased risk with these certain things, right? But yeah, I mean, again, I think that this breaks it down a little bit for just that from a perspective of just kind of giving you a sense of kind of where.
I would also throw into sometimes for the deli turkey, look for no nitrates or no nitrates. So you can get like an Applegate Farms or something. So it's maybe not Oscar Mayer turkey, say, for example, or, even places like Trader Joe's will sell roasted turkey breast already cooked. And, if that's a better option to throw in a wrap or something. But the deli turkey is convenient.
It's
There's
convenient.
that.
Again, right?
There is that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mm.
that's what we got with proteins. Yeah.
Oh,
So
Yeah.
in my mouth, both. Yeah, that's a really good question because I think a lot of people think of peanut butter as a protein when in reality it's way more of a fat. So that's kind of one of those things that there is protein in it, and a lot of times they'll market it really strongly as a protein source, like high protein. They'll put high protein on everything. Just because it's a buzzword of things that people know they need more of it. So they're just like, they see that marketing and they're like, oh, all right, I get the peanut butter. I'm looking to get more protein. But in reality, like for the amount of peanut butter that gives you the amount of protein you need, it's going to be way more calories than you want. Peanut butter is one of those things that is highly caloric. And
it's so good. So tasty.
it is delicious. But you got to be very careful about portions.
Yeah.
Right. But that and the cheap and easy is important, but it's a trap that people fall into as well, right? So and I think that peanut butter, I think fats in general are things you got to just be really aware of, and you really got to read the labels because the portions size, I mean, if you look at portion size of peanut butter and the amount of calories and the amount of proteins, yeah, teaspoon.
2
Or
tablespoons is
yeah.
like,
190 calories, like 8 grams of protein. It's just like that is not a good amount of food, calorie, protein, ratio that you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and that's what people think, but they're like, but peanut butter's not like bad for you, and I'm like, well, it's not about bad for you. It's about if we're talking about weight loss and we're talking about increasing protein, it's not a good source. If we're just trying to get some extra fats in there and like you enjoy it with your meal, then maybe it does fit in. You just have to be a little bit aware of the portions.
Yeah.
That makes sense?
Nuts in general, not processed.
Same thing. Same thing. It's like not bad for you. Like there's nothing wrong with them extensively, but yes, nuts are also pretty caloric for the amount of food you're getting. So how satiated are you going to get from that amount of nuts? For me, it's never been something I would eat, and it's mainly because I'm hungry all the time. I want to all day, every day. I just stay hungry, so I want to eat a lot of food, and I want that to also fit into my goals of being able to stay lean, being able to build muscle, like all that thing. So like it's just not going to be a good decision for me generally. I feel the same way about peanut butter. I love peanut butter, but doesn't really fit in with my goals. I want to be able to eat a lot, and it's not something I can eat a lot of. Yeah, did you have something to say? Sorry.
No, not at all. I was just thinking it is still a really healthy fat. So of the fats, we could talk about that, but in it, and the fats in it should provide a little satiety, but I absolutely agree with you. 2 tablespoons for 190 calories. So if you wanted to get 21 grams of protein, that would take 6 tablespoons of peanut butter for 600 calories. And if you did beans, it'd be like 1.5 cups of beans for that protein versus like 3 ounces of chicken. So it just depends on what your source of protein would be. It's not out of the realm, but you could also combine it with maybe have your peanut butter toast and you have half a protein drink or something along, there's ways to probably work it in, but.
And same thing with nuts, right? It's like, throw it in a portion of it with your meal, and that's still going to be great. But it's just like to think of it, I don't want to think of it as like a protein source because you'll kind of get mixed up with the calories and the portion and stuff like that. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Yes, like recommendations.
Where is it?
Better.
Eat less.
If it's like, isn't what I heard is if it's under 200 calories and 20 grams of protein or more, then it's good. It's just really hard to find something that fits.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like
I
David bars.
yep. I think with things like that are this sort of like a quick source, then I think that is a good way to look at it, like a calorie to protein ratio. But I always want to just keep in mind with those things, like again, it's 200 calories in something like this big, right? So it can definitely fit in as something that can be like a supplement to like you get making sure you get enough protein in your day, or you really don't have time. It's like an on-the-go thing, right? But it's just if I was going to sit down and have a meal, I want to have something that's really going to be probably a little bit more food, right? A little bit more food dense, a little more nutrient dense. So I think that is a really good way to look at it is calories per protein ratio. Yeah, a snack, right? Um, but you just got to be aware, like for a lot of people, that's going to be something that is not going to really fill them up, and it's going to be a quick 200 calories. So it's sort of again, what's my goal? If I'm trying to get protein in and I kind of struggle with it, I think, yeah, like something like a Barbell is like 200 calories, 20 grams of protein. Like that's a pretty good quick thing that you can get on the go and just, and, really convenient for people, really easy to just
Good to travel
to fit, good to travel with. Yep. But way better choice than so many things that you would just get quickly.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the key. I think that
Hold
that's
your-
where protein drinks and protein bars are going to really fit in. It's going to be better than a lot of the choices you're going to make. And that calorie to protein ratio is huge, especially if our goals are weight loss. All right, moving forward to carbohydrates, another super misunderstood macronutrient. So carbs are just going to be the primary source of energy. That's the main thing we want to think about with carbs. It's just going to be energy source. So the body can break down protein and fats for energy, just not nearly as efficient, not nearly as well. So yeah, when carbs matter most, I'm making this very simple, but before and after training is when it's going to have like the biggest influence on like that's like when we should really be focusing on it is energy before protein or before training or any kind of exercise, sport, whatever you're doing, and then it's going to be really helpful with protein. It will help the protein digest a little better after your training session. So that's another thing that's really important with carbohydrates post training and stuff like that. Just on high activity days, if we're like going on a hike, if we're, really long hike, if we have, or I don't know, I mean, most people are not doing tournaments, sports, but say,
bike rides.
yeah, bike rides, something that's going to be a really high activity day, carbohydrates would be a better energy source for you to kind of focus on. But a lot of times for people, it's going to be like where people have the biggest issues. Because a lot of, something like white rice, for instance, is delicious and great. Really easy to overeat. It's like it digests fast. It's not, from calories for the portion is really high. So just things like that for a lot of people, they really struggle because it's really easy to overeat. Like I was kind of saying with fats. So for both carbs and fats, the main things we want to think about are just when we're having them and sort of being aware of our portion sizes with those, because it's a little bit easier to overeat with those things. So with carbohydrates, we want to really thinking about fruits and vegetables. Those are our carbohydrates that we want to be like the staples, higher fiber carbs. So fruits, vegetables, potatoes, like I mentioned, rice is a good source, but again, portion size is something we want to think about there. Oats, quinoa, beans, lentils. So more nutrient dense, more fiber dense, something we want to focus on better for energy, consistent energy. Things like candy, just sweets, things like that. It's just eating less of that. That's something we don't want to have as much. Less, going to make you less full, really easy to overeat, extremely calorie dense. Fats. Just thought this kid was cute, so. So we. Yeah, he's kind of just going right in on that avocado. I don't know. So we kind of already talked about this, but fats are just going to be, there can be healthy fats, avocado, healthy fat. But again, almost all fats, it's 9 grams, 9 calories per gram for fats. It's going to be 4 calories per gram for proteins and carbs. So it's just a more energy dense macronutrient. So you just got to be a lot more. If we're trying to be in a calorie deficit, I'm not saying everybody wants to lose weight here, but if that is the goal, you have to be very aware of the portion sizes because it's really easy to overeat. So that would be something I would just think about there. If we were trying to gain weight and we have a hard put on muscle, gain weight, but we have a hard time getting the amount of food in that we want, fats are going to be a really good source, right? You don't have to eat as much, it's higher calories. So again, thinking about things just for your own goals, right? For what you're looking for and how they fit in. Big picture, compared to protein and carbs, probably has a little bit less of an influence on body comp and performance outside of just that calorie management is something we really have to think about. Did I skip something? Oh, yeah, just thinking about like why, like what fats function are in your body. Forms a lot of cell membranes, forms our brains and nervous system, helps balance hormones. So especially if we do want to have a minimum amount, I think like 50, 60 grams is probably a good guideline as a minimum, something like that for most people.
Average.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And if we're really low on fats, there's a lot of times there can be some issues around hormone regulation and things like that. And also just kind of just general body not functioning.
GI.
Yeah, GI stuff. So we do want to have a minimum amount, but again, just being aware of the portion size and stuff like that. So same kind of scale here. Fried foods, fast food. These are the things that tend to have a really high fat and carbohydrate, high sugar, right? These things, that combination is pretty deadly to people as far as it being delicious and you wanting to eat more of it and overeat it, right? So we want to stay more on the avocado, nuts, seeds, olives, fatty fish, stuff like that, and just being a little more aware of the portion size. So I gave you a lot of information, but what are we supposed to do, right? We have to actually look to take some steps and change some habits, right? I don't know who's read this book, but it is a really, really, really good book. And yeah, definitely I think a mindset change for a lot of people, the way they think about kind of their habits. So 4 rules that James Clear has is make it obvious, make it attractive, make it easy, make it satisfying. So I'll talk a little bit about how we do that here. So making it obvious is setting our environment up to succeed, okay? Keeping good options food visible and easy access, prep protein ahead of time, remove friction from good choices. So that's removing the friction from good choices is like, creating that scale for yourself, categorizing foods ahead of time, making the decisions ahead of time. I think another example of this for me is like something I take daily is creatine and vitamin D. Those are 2 things I take daily. I have ADD and will forget my head if it wasn't attached to my body. So I put that next to basically next to the fridge because I know I'm gonna put my lunch together every day right in the morning. I see the creatine, I see the vitamin D right there. It supports me taking it. So it's the same idea with if I'm setting up my office at work. I want to make these foods, the fruits and vegetables, the protein right in front of my face, easy to access, easy to eat, reminders of what I want to be having on a regular basis. All right. And I want to try to remove that stuff that's in your face, the environment of things I don't want. Right. Make it attractive. If the food sucks, you're not going to eat it. So I've had so many people I've been working with and they're like, I made this like chicken. I didn't put anything on it. I put, I put a bunch of broccoli and then it's like, they just don't eat it. And then they just go and get lunch. They buy lunch somewhere. So we want to try to make, if we're making our plan, we're prepping food. You got to keep in mind, it's got to be something you're going to stay with. It's got to be something you're actually going to eat. Yeah, you have a question?
I know sauces are like, but like if you're not using a lot of sauce, it's easy.
Yeah, most spices have like almost no calories. Yeah. Yeah, so I wouldn't even factor that in. But things like oils and sauces are the things you really want to be careful with. Again, a lot of times those are things. My girlfriend, for example, she eats pretty clean, honestly, for the most part, but had gained a little bit of weight. And one of the main things like she learned from starting to track her food one thing was definitely portions with certain meals, things that she was eating a lot. And she was just like, oh, I was just kind of having double calories that I really need for this just because I didn't even think about it. I didn't know. But the other thing was like dressings, like sauces and how much because she would get a salad from Sweetgreen every day almost. And it's like, if in your mind you're like, I'm eating like mostly like protein and vegetables here, like this is pretty like good, healthy food. But there's like a dressing that the salad she got it came with, and like when she actually like really looked at it, it was like 300 calories for I forget, the green goddess or whatever. So whatever it is. And it's like she was just like having an extra 2,000 calories a week on that, and it would not be something you would clock if you weren't trying to get some awareness, right? So I think that is something a key thing to think about is what are those little things that you're having that you're not really realizing and they're not worth it to you, that you can easily cut back on.
It's like, like grilling season's coming up.
Yeah.
Really?
Maybe someday.
So I mean, similar to like, what do you recommend for marinades? Like, that is, I mean, I tend to do like olive oil and if I'm good, like yogurt, but like, what are some like, where I can do like just
So
prep for.
what I would say, and I think this is like a kind of what I'm trying to preach through this whole thing is like, and also not a big, like I'm not a good cook, so I wouldn't really be the person to ask about this, but it's making decisions, being able to make the decision for yourself based on kind of understanding what I'm looking for, right? So if I'm looking at these marinades, looking at these dressings, whatever it is, how much calories per portion? How much protein or whatever, whatever's all in them, like how much fat per portion size. And I need to know how much I'm putting in, right? What portions would I normally use? If I use that portion, is that going to add 400 calories to just my piece of chicken? Like maybe I don't want to do that. So that's how I would assess things. I don't think I can give you like a great recommendation for like a brand or anything, but I think that just looking at it through that lens can really be helpful. Is just deciding like, oh, this is a lot of calories for that amount of ounces, or that amount of grams, or whatever. I don't know if you have any other recommendations for that.
Thing I use commercially, I use Trader Joe's soyaki marinade for things like salmon, but most marinades will probably burn off if it's really to tenderize the meat. So you're probably okay with. I like the notion of a yogurt dressing or whatnot, but I think after this you should connect with Lisa because she's a really good cook and she could definitely give you some ideas about marinades or things. But I think it's more to make the meat tender and stay moist while you're grilling it. But I don't know that it would, even if it's an olive oil marinade, whether would absorb that much of it. But
So generally, more the
making-
sauces you're going to add in
Yeah.
after that's going to have a bigger
Yeah,
effect.
that's
The
right.
dressings is something also usually, yeah.
App
Tracking stuff, yeah.
apps that tell you conveniently what the calories are, so it's all like built in there. You have free ones that you like. I mean, I'm not really that interested in trying to spend a lot of money on it, but like.
Yeah.
We can all talk about this again, not interrupt.
No, it's fine.
I'd love to know.
These are the kind of questions.
MyFitnessPal has a free version. It'll bug you to upgrade to premium.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. That has been
Yeah.
generally what I have used.
Yeah.
And had people use is the free version, but then I like for me, I would just pay for it. But but
Lose It. Lose It is
yeah,
another.
Lose It is another one I've
Yeah.
had people use. But yeah, I think that it all, again, it's like if you're using it as like a week tool, 1 week or a 3-day thing to kind of reset and just build that awareness, I would just say go with the free one and just kind of go through a little bit of that hassle. But if it's something you're gonna like, I'm planning on tracking for a long stint of time, like for me, it just made sense. Like I was like, okay, I'm gonna just pay the whatever, $5 a month or something. Yeah. So we'll come back to those things. We'll do a whole question in a second. I think I'm already over my time, maybe. I don't know. All right. So if it sucks, you're not gonna eat it. I think that's a huge thing. We got to make it taste good. One pro tip with this is thinking about like a lot of people like they prep their meals for the week, and then it's like if they don't, they don't have time or they forgot to grab it. I should have like a fallback meal that's really easy to prep that does fit within my goals. Like for me, it's like a lot of times I'll get home really late. I didn't prep any meat. I didn't cook anything. It's like I know I can make eggs in like 2 seconds, and I can use egg whites. I can have a couple of whole eggs, egg whites, and then I just have some like already cut like vegetables or whatever. and I can just kind of throw that in, heat it up, I'm good to go. So things like that you want to have that stuff in your house. Stuff that's just easy to, even like something like a frozen meal, if it, again, like a lot of times those things aren't necessarily the best from a, calorie or, macro perspective, but sometimes you can find some really good ones. And it's like at certain point, like that's going to be better than making a bad decision. So I want to have those things like always ready to go if I need them. So that'll be something that comes up regularly. And I think it's a huge point is just having that in your head of like, it's not always going to go to plan. So I need a plan B that's just kind of ready to go that doesn't take me so far away from my goals. Because a lot of times that's when people order food or they grab something on their way home. But if I know like, I'm not going to do that because I know I have something that I actually enjoy, like, making like a egg scramble is not like a terrible way. Like, that's pretty good. I like it. So I'm totally okay with having that as a quick option that's still going to get me towards my goals and make me feel good. Make it easy. So starting smaller than you think, 1 to 2 habits at a time, convenience over perfection. Have default meals like I was talking about. One thing too, that I put this picture there because things like already cut up vegetables, things that are frozen that you can heat up, like having as much as like some of those stuff, a lot of times it's the already cut fruit and vegetables, maybe they're not going to be as fresh, whatever. Like if that's going to make it a lot more easy for you, more convenient, and make you be able to follow along with the plan better, probably makes sense to do. And that's how I want to think about this part, this rule, the make it easy thing is like, don't judge yourself so harshly. This doesn't need to be perfect. I don't need to be cooking out these perfect meals all the time, prepping my entire week. Like, just make it convenient and easy for yourself. And a lot of times, things like that, like already prepped things, like if you have a hard time making enough time to do that yourself, buy it already prepped. Like, that's makes more sense. That's going to help you make it easy for yourself, make it sustainable, make it satisfying. So I think tracking wins, not perfection, making sure you actually like giving some, like giving yourself a pat on the back after a week of following along with that habit that you've actually done. Um, Build small wins, build momentum. I think with a lot of these things, the biggest thing that throws them off is what I was talking about the high expectations, the quick timeline. Once we go off the all or nothing, we go off track a little bit, we get frustrated, and then we just stop the process, right? So I need to get wins. So I need to start with something that I know I can do that's easy. So that's why I start with one habit. I don't start with 10 things. If my goal is protein, I know that that's the biggest gap on those basics that I was looking at. All right, is there something that I can add in that I actually like to my morning to add more protein? Let's say I don't normally eat breakfast or something. It's like, okay, like I'm just gonna add a Greek yogurt, something that I can buy that's really easy to have, only takes me a couple minutes to eat, 20 grams of protein right there. Like that's how I want to think about it. Can I just stick with that? I'm going to do that every day for the next 2 weeks, next month. All right, now it's kind of automatic. That's actually really easy for me to do that habit. I don't need to think much. I don't need to put a lot of energy into a lot of effort. Now I'm ready to add something else. Now I'm going to try to add vegetables to my lunch every day. All right, I buy some pre-cut vegetables. I bring that to my lunch every day. It's like things like that. That's how I want to think about making these changes and moving forward. So we have homework. For each of you guys, I want you to actually get started. So that's what I'm challenging you to do is think about those basics that we went through, think about all the things you've taken right now, and try to decide what that first step is going to be, what that first habit that you want to add on that's going to really kind of get you towards where in the right direction of your goals is kind of the idea. Make them easy, do them this week, try to do them the rest of the month, make it get to the point where it's automatic and you're not spending a lot of energy and effort. And then we can move on to getting that next thing. And that's how you're going to make these habit changes over time so that it's not so, changing your diet isn't so scary and being able to make these changes that are going to get you to where you want to be. If you want to lose weight, if we're looking to gain muscle, all these things, like it's going to take a lot of time, but if we make these small changes, it's a lot easier than you think. And it's a lot easier to stay on the track. So yeah, that's what I got. I think that's all I got. Yeah.
What, a brand? I think
So
CA has one.
yeah, Sue's gonna talk.
Yeah.
She's gonna talk a lot. What'd you say?
Some more.
Yeah, some more.
Sorry.
Before she goes, do you have any guys any more questions about any of the stuff we talked about just now?
I'll just hand them down.
Just your body.
Yeah. Oh, calorie wise? Calorie wise?
Yeah, like the functions of your body that it does every day in order to stay alive.
That's your basal metabolic rate, and that usually can be read by a scale, a bioelectrical impedance scale, but that's just the calories you burn at rest and respirations without activity. So, and the way you can increase your BMR is more lean muscle, because muscle is an active tissue. That's right.
So the balance is like what I need to live. And then what I need to do.
That will be, if you get on the scale and you're gaining that, no, well, or know your body. If you're gaining, you're going to say, I guess I'm taking in more than my body is burning, or consistently losing weight. And you're like, ooh, maybe I'm under fueling because I'm losing weight without, I mean, checking the scale or knowing, but there's, there's this a balance. There's a BMR, which is that.
So
Stuff.
yeah, so
I want to.
what
Being, I'm not-
yes. The one thing I would say with that is yeah, so there are a lot of Jared said something about formulas. Like I could type into ChatGPT, like I weigh this much, how much calories should I be eating a day, how much protein, blah, 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 right? And you can come up with an equation that will get you a number. But the reality is like the only way to really accurately know whether I'm in a maintenance amount of calories, like whether I'm is to know what you're eating, weigh every day, and be able to see are you gaining weight or are you losing weight. So that it's tough because that is sort of I know
Yeah.
that's not like
Ideal for everybody.
super ideal.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the reality is like that's how I'm going to make decisions. If I was guiding someone through a weight loss journey,
Yeah.
like if they, all right, we lost 5 pounds doing what we were doing, and then it stopped, like, and it stopped for a long time. That's where it's like, all right, I know that that's now at our maintenance calories. We're at this point, so we need to bring something down.
The other thing I usually will, if you do a MyFitnessPal, when you sign on to it, it'll ask you all those questions. What's your height? What's your weight? What's your goal weight loss per week? And they will come up with a number, a calorie level. I also will take weight in kilograms, and for weight loss, 20 calories per kilogram. We could do a number later, but that's generally a weight loss level, but everybody's different. Your workout schedule, which is
Yeah,
consistent,
that's kind of the metabolism thing I was talking about. Like
Yeah.
that out of calories part of the equation is like
yeah.
going to be very different if I have,
Yeah.
you know, a ton of lean muscle mass compared to somebody that's never lifted a weight or,
Right.
you know what I mean? Well, that's what
Yeah.
I'm talking a little bit about.
There you go. Yeah. No, there were so many good things. I would have kept jumping in, but I don't want to bug you. But no, you such good points. Yeah.
You see, you're always hungry.
Yeah. Okay. No
I-
problem. You're good.
What?
You stay out of it.
yeah.
She's like, I just eat the same thing. I work from home, like I just always eating the same thing.
Yeah. Every day.
Give me like, what are like 2 of your go-to snacks?
Yeah, if you're so hungry.
You're like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, some of the things might not be as appealing to other people,
Everybody.
but a lot of times, like middle between meals or something like that, I will have like an orange and like a portion of cottage cheese, or an orange and some Greek yogurt, like something like that. So I'm getting a little bit of protein, a little bit of carbs that are going to give me energy, and it's all pretty whole foods. Like, and that's another thing where having the cottage cheese and the Greek yogurt, easy things to buy and bring to work that I can just get a good source of protein, pretty low calorie, and it's just that can be a pretty good snack. Like that's going to fill me up if I have that and a piece of fruit, and I'm getting not only the protein needs but some energy from the carbohydrates.
Carbs and protein are buddies. They like to go together. I've had these sumo oranges, and then just like take a spoonful of
Don't even get me
Greek
started
yogurt.
with sumo oranges. I
Oh.
love sumo oranges.
Love sumo oranges. I know they're crazy good, but yeah, they're delicious. Yeah. Well, you all know, yeah, they peel like nothing. Like they're so great. You know, Dylan, I'll just introduce myself for those who don't know me, but I'm Sue Miller. I work out here. You might have seen me here some mornings, but I am a registered dietitian. I have worked in the field longer than I'm going to announce. But anyway, for 20 plus years, I worked at Newton Wellesley at the Center for Weight Loss Surgery. So I would see folks in anticipation of bariatric surgery for weight loss and follow them through that whole process, prepping them for surgery, getting them through and the post-op phase, and then years out, still, you know, see folks years later. And transition to just private practice probably around COVID. So I just kind of wanted to do my own thing. And so that's what I've been doing, meeting with people individually, in person, certainly virtually, because that was the thing from COVID on, and it just made it really convenient for people. So I've done the nutrition thing for a lot of years, started in my teens, like taking my mom's magazines and looking at the diets and the recipes and all of that good stuff. And I remember following the Atkins diet, a new diet that was out back then. Yeah. And in 6 days, I lost 6 pounds, but I clearly remember being unable to like climb up the stairs of my house. I had no energy because Atkins diet does what? It cuts out all your carbs, which is your body's first source of fuel. So I learned that there had to be a better way to do this. And so went to school, figured out some nutrition stuff. And so really love kind of talking about this a little bit more. So all of these were great. The whole diet notion, what's in the word diet? Die. Like we don't want to diet. You do want to fuel well. And I find more often than not, that is what I talk to people about, is not what you need to take out of your diet, rather, what do you want to put in? And protein is the main game. Fiber too. That's why I wanted to give out both of those handouts, a fiber protein cheat sheet and a fiber sheet as well, because those will both be the things that fill you up and give you a little more satiety in the day. So this was a little more directed towards the mature women, and you guys can stay. But for more menopausal issues, because I don't know if, you know, some won't raise your hands, you're just not in that realm yet. But when that time hits, it is almost as if you feel like your body's betraying you. Anyone? Like, I've heard from a lot of women, they're like, I don't know, I'm doing the same things I've always done. Why am I sort of getting this whole belly? Like, what's going on here? And it's different. And yet you're feeling like, wait a minute, I know I'm not overeating, I'm not doing things very differently. So I wanted to sort of address that a little bit and then kind of dial back to, again, some of the things we would recommend, like what's going to make sense during this time. It's estrogen. That's the problem. It's just it's the lack of estrogen. Once we get through that phase, we're not putting out as much estrogen, and that hormone is in all of the tissues of our body. So what it does too is, as those levels drop, estrogen helps regulate metabolism. So, and it affects your bone density and affects cholesterol. I know personally, my cholesterol levels started to go up. I'm like, wait a minute, I'm not like, I don't eat red meat. I don't, you know, I couldn't quite grasp that it was the change in hormones too. So it has an effect on lots of our organs. And so our metabolism will also go down. When that happens, and I'm just going to review this part, particularly during menopause, it causes weight gain by slowing your metabolism, causing the body to burn fewer calories. We were just talking about metabolic rate. Promoting abdominal fat storage. So instead of storing on hips and thighs, which could have been the case, lower estrogen causes fat to sort of land in the midsection. So as it declines, your insulin sensitivity drops too. So we'll talk a little bit about what to do to help sort of offset some of that. And as that happens, you're just, you know, your body is just more prone to storing fat, to not burning the same way. So we all think it's like, I just don't have the metabolism I did when I was younger. And there really is something to that. But it doesn't mean that it's an automatic. And what I always don't like to hear is people coming back from their docs saying, oh, they said, well, it's just menopause. You're just going to gain 10 or 15 pounds. I'm like, I don't think it has to be the case. It could explain some of it, but there are ways to sort of approach that will help you still manage during that phase. that shift too, the decrease in estrogen, is often accompanied by muscle loss, reduced physical activity, poor sleep, which can also trigger weight gain. We touched on sleep before, and it's not just annoying as much as it's also, like you say, if you're not feeling rested during the day, if I go to tell somebody, get out, get moving, why don't you go take a walk? It's like, oh, I can't even get through the day. Never mind like trying to add in activity. And you will, if you're not as rested, you're going to release more cortisol during the day, which also will cause a little surge in insulin and hunger too. So not only you're not sleeping as well, but you're hungrier during the day, you're more tired. So it's a little cascade of events, unfortunately. But again, we'll see what we can do. So really the goal is sort of managing the middle at this time, this phase, as well as your heart and your bones, because that is also part of what is, gets affected in this phase of life. But I think some of the big nutritional pillars, I think is that on this one, apply to everybody. And protein, again, I'll sort of repeat what Dylan was saying about that, but protein is the anchor. I use this analogy, you guys have heard it, of if you envision a roaring fire, you want to keep this fire burning, you keep throwing logs on the fire. If you walk away for a few hours, you come back, you're like, hey, what happened to the fire? It's dimmed, it's just embers. And if you go to throw a big log on to get it going again, it doesn't burn efficiently. Protein is the same. You want to look at protein as the logs on the fire to keep your metabolism going through the day. And at the end of the day, our goal is steady blood sugars. If we're roller coastering through the day, we're just going to be calling on insulin all day. And what does that want to do? Promote fat storage. I will direct it here. So the steadier we can be in the day, the better at the end of the day. And you're going to feel fuller. If you get those logs on the fire, if you throw in the hits of protein through the day, it's going to keep you fuller. And if you're not swinging, because what goes up comes down. So you're going to get hungry again once those blood sugars start to drop. So if we can level that all off and you can feel a little bit better through the day energy-wise and fullness, then that's going to be the name of the game. And when we talk about what I have on this sheet is the 25 to 30 grams of protein sort of per meal. There's thinking that really more than 35-ish grams of protein at a meal, you really can't absorb, almost the notion of putting gas in a tank that's filled, it's going to spill out. I think there's some new research that's sort of saying, hey, maybe we can take in more than that at a time. But I would still go back to saying you don't want to have a croissant in the morning, those 2 slices of pizza that were mentioned at lunch, and then think that's okay. I'm going to sit down to a big steak or piece of chicken or something at night. You can't get it all. That's the big log on the fire. It's not going to burn well at night. You really have to think about at every meal, where's the protein coming from and how am I going to get that in? Hopefully that protein cheat sheet will be a good reference or a good guide, because it's not just the typical meat, chicken, fish. You're going to see the protein in quinoa, for example. So there will be some other options there. For women in particular, I know intermittent fasting can be a thing. And look, I'll never oppose anybody if that's something that they want to try. But I also feel that it stresses the body in a sense, more women more so than men, in the sense that you may release more cortisol. So my personal feeling is try to take meals. And in fact, breakfast like a king, lunch like a queen, dinner like a pauper is actually a much sort of better way to sequence your day, because you're burning more of your calories, you're more active during the day. Even if it is a desk job or you're more sedentary during the day, you actually are still burning more calories, obviously, than at night. But most of us have a different, you get up, you're out the door, I don't have time to eat, and then lunch is whatever it might be, and then you sit down, and then it's kind of that relaxing time at night when you're sitting and you're having dinner, and then you're extending the nice time at night and you go into a little snack. So sometimes there can be a lot of calories in the evening, and I think it's just better to front load than backload your calories. So thinking along those lines and what might get you there as far as protein goes, whether it is Greek yogurt or cottage cheese or rolled oats that maybe you add whey protein powder to boost that up too. That's absolutely an option. Yeah.
Something to add to what you were just saying. There's also a lot of studies around like how much eating right before you go to sleep disrupts your sleep quality because your body's trying to digest while it's also trying to. So that's something to,
Yeah.
kind of highlight that as well.
Trying to have a cutoff time. And also mainly because it's the notion that that time after dinner, everybody kind of needs a little snack, but it really can be the time that it's 2, 3, 400 calories is pretty easy to tally up at night. Maybe it's a spoonful or two of peanut butter, Dave. Maybe it's, I don't know, but those calories can kind of add up quickly. And I absolutely agree that tracking is worthwhile. I had one woman who I would see, she come back each time, I'm not losing, I'm not losing. And I feel frustrated for her too. I'm like, I want to pull the magic wand out of my bag and do something. But I said, why don't we just track for a little bit? And she had been reluctant. Next time she came back, she's like, I'm down 4 pounds. But it's just that, like, if you bite it, you write it. And you got to know that you're accounting for it. So it's really helpful just for those little extra things and the awareness. Also, you were talking a lot about the portion sizes, and there was a study with people eating chicken wings. So one group, they let the bones pile up, and the second group, they kept clearing them away as they ate them. Well, that group ate more because they couldn't see how much they were eating. So the notion or the take home is don't keep an open bag or box next to you and just kind of polish off those bag of chips. You just can't keep track of how much you're eating. So put something, portion something out, put it in a bowl or put it on a plate, have it hit that before it goes in your mouth. Don't go directly bag to mouth because it's too easy to just overdo in that case. So putting something, so I try myself. If there's some tortilla chips, they'll go in a little bowl, the bag goes away, and then at least if you go back for more, that's fine, but you're aware that you're going back for more. So the portion size thing is big. And once people can really get a handle on that, and the tracking does not need to be a lifelong thing that you have to do, a homework assignment. But even a week, 2 weeks just gives you a little notion of what am I getting for calories. And I also usually adjust people's macros within the app to bring the carbs down a little bit, bring the protein up. And if you can look at the macro wheel pie chart at the end of the day, that's as important as the calories, really. Say you're trying to keep to 1,500 calories. Well, you can get that from Twinkies in the day, but doesn't mean you're getting protein and doesn't mean you're getting fiber and all this other good stuff. So the tracking can kind of really be valuable information. So protein, we have protein sources, trying to get that in through the day. As I said, keep thinking of logs on the fire. Fiber is the other big one. It really does keep you fuller. It helps your overall gut health, and we've learned a lot about gut health and how that impacts overall health. So fruits, veggies, complex carbs are the things that you're going to get good fiber from. And when you can feed that to your gut and it breaks those down and you're developing good probiotics, that's what we're saying. Refined carbs, more of the ultra processed foods, sweets, all of that are the things that your gut, well, ultra processed foods, your gut really isn't prepared to handle. Like it's hard to even recognize that because it's just not food that's been around for like 100 years. It's this newfangled thing. So when you eat it, it's hard for your body to process it. And we really want to sort of cultivate good bacteria, good probiotics, so which absolutely affects your whole, your whole overall health. So it's hard to get. If you look at trying to, if you guesstimate and looking at some of these, to aim for 25 to 30 grams of fiber in a day, when you look at that chart, it's not easy. You have to almost envision at every meal, like you're saying, vegetables at breakfast, like throw out diced veggies and peppers and onions in an omelet in the morning or spinach. And if I made soup, I always have a bag of baby spinach and it goes into everything. It just wilts anyway. And it's like, it's an easy add. But thinking about that and then, whether it's salads or however you're going to incorporate it at lunch and then something with dinner and then using those in between times, like we are saying, maybe that's where you put in a piece of fruit and pair it up with a protein. So you're getting more fiber that way. But I will share that my morning concoction is you do creatine and vitamin D. I do vitamin D, which I would tell anybody in the Northeast to take vitamin D3, 2,000 IUs a day, because we all fall short without getting sunlight. Is Metamucil. I know, sound like an old lady, but it isn't just for, it's just not for your, it's for fiber, which is really helpful. So it's Metamucil, creatine goes in that, and then I can take down the vitamin D with it, and fish oil, which is another supplement I'm going to suggest for folks. Anybody big fish eater, like almost like everyday fish eater? Not every day. Yeah. When we talk also about this whole menopausal phase and, there's just an increase in inflammation, and what is going to help to bring down inflammation are things like fish oil or omega-3s. Often we just don't get enough in our American diet. When they did a study of folks in Japan, South Korea, really high levels of omega-3s. Why? They have fish every day. So short of that, I'm really a proponent of a omega-3 or a fish oil supplement to hit that. So a fish oil. I'm doing one in the morning. It's a fish oil. I could think of what the EPA and DHA levels are in that. I do one of them. It's a Honkin bullet capsule, but goes down and yeah. I think it's like a Nature's Bounty or something. It's like, yeah. But I do think I just think heart health and the anti-inflammatory properties of that is really, it's worth thinking about. If you were somebody that was getting in tuna at lunch and you were having salmon a few nights at dinner or other fish or something, that may be a different story. But if you really think about how often you do get like fish, seafood, whatnot in the day, in your week rather, could be an ad to think about. Just gonna loop back to the vitamin D. I'm jumping around a little bit, but while I'm on supplements, to get vitamin D through your diet, it's really fatty fish and fortified milk. And same, a lot of women just aren't pounding milk during the day. So, and you can get it through sunlight, like 10 or 15 minutes, but not November through April. The sun, even if it's a sunny day and you're standing outside, you're not getting D through the sun, and converting it to the active form. D helps get calcium into your bones. So for us women, bone health is really super important. I would absolutely be taking a vitamin D3 every day. I have pushed my primary care to have my vitamin D levels checked. She gives me a hard time, just saying insurance may not want to cover it, but it's worth asking. And just to know where you're at, particularly if you tell her you want to be supplementing it, let me at least know what my baseline levels are for that. So I think D is a big one. D, fish oil. Calcium, ideally, if you can get that through your diet, terrific. Yogurt, cheeses, other dairy, some cottage cheese, it's not as high in calcium, but rather than from supplements. But if it's a little more studies showing, this calcium supplements maybe not as ideal. I can talk about that at another time, but I still think if you really find that you're lactose intolerant and you're getting no dairy in your day, considering a calcium supplement is going to be important, because we will have bone loss too as time goes on. So protein, fiber, I touched on the nutrients. So calcium, the omega-3s or fish oil, magnesium, also not a bad supplement. Anybody already doing magnesium? Yeah. Yeah, all around. Yeah. Good for sleep, stress. Our diets are a little bit, I think, our food supply a little bit low with that. So a little magnesium. What are you laughing? What are you thinking? All right. What are we missing, Laura? What are we missing here? You're staying hydrated, all that. Yeah, I know. Well, I know that happens, but it's a consequence. It's a consequence. If my other analogy, as I like these, is if you have a plant in your house, you're away for a week, you didn't water it, you come home and the thing looks dead, but you're like, oh, forget it, I've lost that one. But you water it anyway, and you walk past it a couple hours later, and the thing's starting to come back to life. And I think this is the way we can be through the day. If we feel tired, droopy, headachy, those are signs that we're a little dehydrated. And often it's the time we think, oh, I need a little sugar or caffeine to pick me up, when in fact you really just should be watering yourself and making sure that you're staying on top of your hydration. So it's a big one. I know you pee a lot, but it's a good sign that you're hydrating um, and staying on top of that. Let me think. Anti-inflammatory foods, still fruits, veggies, nuts, sorry, coffee, green tea, good anti. No, no, no. You're gonna be the peanut butter villain
Yeah,
from
I
here
know.
on in, but I know. I don't know. I like Alex was the one who suggested putting on peanut butter toast, putting cottage cheese on top of that, and I was somewhat horrified. But now it's like my morning little routine. It adds your protein. You get your hit of peanut butter. I don't know. It kind of works, but I like it. Um, let's see. So, timing your meals important to keep steady blood sugars. Oh, and you did talk about the carbs. And you're exactly right. They're not the bad guys. It's just the choices, and the refined carbs will create inflammation. Sometimes another way to remember them is I always say the C word. So cookies, cakes, crackers, chips, candy, those things that when you eat them, there's not much to break down. So your body will spike blood sugars pretty quickly, as opposed to rolled oats or fruits or veggies, things that have fiber, because then your body's got to be like, oh, I got to churn this up and break it down. So you're going to get a slower release of that sugar in your bloodstream. So, yeah.
Just want to make one comment on that. I mean, that's when we're talking about like athletics or my training or something like that. Those are, I might not want something that's going to digest long if I'm about to go work out.
Right.
So those would be like the certain situations where it might make sense to have something that's going to be,
Quicker.
yeah, shoot quicker. It's going to shoot that insulin up a little bit. That's actually not a bad thing.
Right.
Training. So again, it's not good or bad. It's just like, how am I using these things?
Exactly. And it is exactly how you're using your fuel. If you know you're preparing for a day at the office or you're sitting, think about the difference of having rolled oats versus frosted flakes. Those are going to be very different blood sugar responses. You might want frosted flakes before running a marathon, because you're going to churn through that, you're going to churn through it. My son's girlfriend, who also ran the marathon, she was making Rice Krispie treats that day. And she's like, you want some Rice Krispie treats? I'm like, not really. But for her, that was like marshmallows and sugar and no fiber in sight, because you don't want to be loading up on fiber before you're going to go run a marathon. So you're exactly right. If you're going to go out on a hike, we mentioned protein bars. If you think about Cliff bars, you look at the picture of those and it's like a guy hanging from a rock. Those are higher carbs, not particularly high protein, but for something like a long hike or more endurance activities, that's a perfect choice, because you're going to be churning through those carbs. If you're sitting and again at your desk and you're just looking for a little snack, you want a protein bar like a Pure Protein or the Bear Bells that are lower carbs, higher protein, because you're just looking to check off the protein box and get through the afternoon and steady your blood sugars. So does that make sense? Like, yeah. Um, so, so I guess what I have to say about, and then there was a page in here on like soy, because I think for a long time soy was also a little demonized, like that's going to cause breast cancer, and really the studies have not supported that. And in fact, when you look at countries again like Japan, they have very low rates of breast cancer. Who would you talk to about that? Who should we talk to? I know we have our food. Yeah. Oh, who are we going to talk to there about that? No. We do have an issue. I do agree. Our food supply and some of our choices, it is a minefield out there, even, with making choices around fast food, the things that are available, and the prepping and planning is huge. It's super easy to go out the door in the morning willy-nilly without a plan for the day, and you'll find food. It's not hard to it's not like we're hunter and gatherers anymore. There's food 24/7. So you really do want to make a plan to have the right stuff, just like, Dylan was saying, the right things in front of you, know that you're bringing lunch with you. I had somebody was having her 2 slices of pizza. She didn't realize, she's like, oh, my blood sugars are ticking up. And she was going into pre-diabetes range. She's not a big woman, or she was perfectly fine weight. But she'd get up, have maybe skip in the morning, go to the office, 2 slices of pizza in the afternoon, tank by 3. So she was reaching for, oh, I think she was going to a pastry shop in town. And then she was wondering why her blood sugars have been ticking up. And so we just did some flipping around. And last time I saw her, she's like, I'm down 5 pounds. And her energy is so much better. Like, she's just steadier. She's not, crashing at 3 in the afternoon. She needed more protein. So she was just making, those switches. So it wasn't about like, can't ever have pizza, and when you start to feel better, it's much easier to stick with those changes, because you're like, why would I go back to feeling like crap, right? So it just builds on itself too, which is great. I know I was cheering all of that on. Okay, so soy was in there, so that you can kind of look at on that last page. And I think I didn't want to, oh no, I'm early. Um, is there any, like, I'm just thinking we'll have time if there's more questions talking about, anything, but I will say that unfortunately the shift is due to these hormones. And as an aside, hormone replacement therapy is really gaining some traction, and I'm not going to go down that road. It's not my arena, but I do know that it isn't going to be the be all and end all either. If women in particular, well, women are looking for that as far as having an effect on menopausal weight gain and all, it could be really beneficial for other things, but I wouldn't count on it necessarily to be the thing that helps with the weight issues. But it's certainly a conversation that could be had with your OBGYN. But did you have a question?
So I don't really like them, so it's never been my thing, but so many people swear, and I find it we still haven't talked much about
Yeah.
shakes. Everyone talks about buy a shake and shake.
All right. Yeah. I know. Well, there's a couple thoughts. There's ready-made protein drinks, shakes, there's Premier Protein, and I think they are, again, a convenient option. I would rather somebody take a Premier Protein drink out the door in the morning than skip. You get 30 grams of protein. Would I prefer to say, bust out your blender and make a yogurt smoothie and add some whey protein powder and blueberries? Sure. If that's not realistic and you're not going to do that, I'd prefer you had something like that in the morning. And the same way when I was talking about like with the peanut butter toast, there are ways to use those to counterbalance what you're having. I might have in the afternoon, if I didn't, if I had that sumo orange, maybe I would have half of a vanilla protein drink or something just to check the box. So I don't know, but there are.
Yeah, I was just speaking to something like that. I think it's very similar to the protein bar conversation in a lot of ways. It's just it's not that there's anything special that are amazing about protein shakes. A lot of people, the reason why a lot of people talk about them and there's hype around is because marketing companies have made it made it like, oh, you need to get a protein shake after your meal to be able to recover. Like that's the only way, or after your workout, sorry, to recover. So like that's the only way to do it. In reality, it's just another tool.
Yeah.
Right. So I need to think about it like that. Like there's nothing special about it. It would be probably better for you to sit down and have a meal full with, like chicken breast or fish or whatever.
Right.
But for most people, that's not necessarily what they can do all the time. Right. So it's all about fitting it into your life and your schedule. And for some people, that might be the easiest, best option for them to help them get protein in the morning or something, or after a workout or whatever.
And let me add, I've got a lot of clients on GLP-1s now, and they do their job as far as tamping down appetite almost too well at times. If they're like, I'm just not hungry, I'm just, floating through the day. If I don't eat, I'll just lose more weight. And I'm on them about, no, you got to You don't want to keep losing lean muscle. So for some people in those circumstances too, the protein drinks can be easy. It's easier getting 30 grams of protein from a drink than trying to, the equivalent would be like 4 ounces of chicken. And if they're full already or just not that hungry, the thought of like hosing 4 ounces of chicken is like just not going to happen. So that's also where it can be a good a good, supplement to get that protein in, because yeah, that's more of the struggle, honestly. I mean, they're amazing medications, but yeah, it's just now it's an opposite fight of like trying to make sure you're getting in enough. So sometimes in those cases, that's where they'll be valuable. Yeah. Yeah.
I know you come at 7:30 sometimes.
Yes.
Morning.
Sometimes,
So
yeah.
What do you eat beforehand that you think is enough?
Besides my Metamucil drink. Yeah. Yeah. Right. I have been having this artisan bread that I've been getting at Trader Joe's. So I do a slice, put a spread of peanut butter on it. I'll have some cottage cheese and maybe like some banana slice on it. And for me, if I were going to go run 5 miles, that may not be my choice because that might feel heavier. But to come and do the strength stuff, that feels okay. And then when I finish, that may be when I have like half a protein drink or something when I get back. Because remember, you have time after your strength workouts where your muscles are primed to sort of take in protein to help with the recovery and the repair. So again, the timing is different, right? Half hour, an hour, or maybe after a workout, we would say, but that may be the best time to sort of follow up your workout with a hit of protein. Could be, a few forkfuls of cottage cheese or something too, or Greek yogurt if you hadn't done that.
Yeah, I mean, I would add to that. Everyone asks that question. And I think it can be a hard one to answer for us because I think so much of it is person to person of what does well with your stomach,
Yeah.
what makes you feel good. So, for me, I can eat a pretty good meal and lift weights right after.
Yeah.
But as she said, like I do jujitsu, I wouldn't eat a big meal before I do that. Like I don't want a lot of food in my stomach. So that's going to change things a little bit. But so much of it is like, people, you kind of have to do a little bit of trial and error to figure out what makes you feel the best when you're doing the thing. But the key is just getting a portion of those carbohydrates and protein before and after is sort of what you're looking for in that kind of like 20 to 30 gram sort of.
There is a 730-er, we won't name names, but she's just like, I have to eat before I come here. I was like, nothing. So, I like half a banana. So she's now trying to at least get in like a little piece of banana or something. I think it's just, again, you want to have a little fuel in the tank. And again, it is very variable. And it depends on whether it's a strength or a cardio workout. Again, if somebody tells me they're going to go out and run 5-10 miles, I'm like, you're not going to do that on an empty stomach because you're going to tank. And so, but if you feel okay, it's what I always ask, I'm like, how did you get through the workout? Did you feel okay? But, I think it's worth playing around just to see if you could feel better or optimize your workout.
But the post-workout is where that nutrition is a little more important from a perspective of actual like results and progress. Like we do need protein after the workout to be able to get, and it doesn't need to be right after. Carbs, like she was saying, carbs and protein kind of go together well. The carbohydrates are generally going to help the protein digest a little better.
You want to top off the fuel tanks, the glycogen tank, like marathoners. Like I don't know if you could get enough in afterwards, but when you do your strength, the goal is to create little micro tears, right? That's how when that heals, you build muscle. So you're getting the protein in on board to help with that repair process. So yeah.
The research is a little bit.
I know. I'm like,
I think like they used to think like 5 to 10 minutes, like it needs to be like right after, and that's what the protein shake companies were really selling hard. But now people think it's a little bit longer, like in that 2 hour, 2 to 5 hour kind of range. But the best way to think about it is like the earlier the better, I would say. Just trying to make sure we get that protein source.
And on the notion of protein foods, nobody needs protein Pop-Tarts. I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm putting them.
They make everything.
They have protein popcorn. They have protein pretzels. There's
Yeah.
protein Pop-Tarts. And no, I just say no. I put my foot down on that. Plus, it's double the price anyway, and it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Look at the list. Look at an ingredient list. And if you like, if it's going to take you half an hour to read the list, you just, no.
Probably
Just
not
no.
great. Yeah.
So yeah, it's insane. And that's what we used to say in the clinic. Like if food wasn't around 100 years ago, why would you eat that? But, I mean, within reason, there are some, some good developments, I guess, over time. But the more you can stick with, good food and absolutely 80/20 rule, going and, enjoying foods, having ice cream, if that's your thing, whenever, which is my thing. But, having that at times, but it makes you not feel deprived, makes it feel sustainable, like you're a real person that's gonna, it's people that are super rigid, like I can't have this, I can't have that. At some point, you're gonna, I don't know, it's just not gonna work, in my opinion. I would say if you put a kid in a room, some people hear this analogy too, but a room filled with toys and you tell the little one, just don't play with that purple truck in the corner. What's he going to go for? The first thing he's going to go for is that. So if the message is you leave here, Susa, don't eat pizza, you're going to leave here being like, it tastes really good right now. It's like pizza.
Yeah.
So it's anything, there's nothing that's off limits. It's just how you want to balance it in your day. But that being said, do think prioritize protein. It's never gonna, will always serve you well, I should say. And then trying to get in the complex carbs. Look at the chips and the cookies will still be there and will still fit in, but it's just, again, how much and how often, and thinking about maybe it becomes like, that ice cream, I'd really love it on Friday. I don't really need it tonight. Maybe I can wait, or even an hour from now. And sometimes when you pause, even in an hour from now, it's like, oh, all right, I think I can get past that. It's okay. So there is that. Okay, I think I've hit on the bigger items.
Yeah. I think
Does that make sense? Yeah, I don't want. I said that to Staples. I was like, that paper is so nice. He's like, that's our usual paper. I said, I didn't realize that. So yes, thank you. I'm glad you noticed that too. But yeah, so, and check, if push your PCPs on things like, checking labs, bone density. Don't wait till 65. Like, I don't know. Just, stay on them to check things in your world. Heart health too for women, big push on that. Get things like if it's calcium CT scores, know what your lipid panel looks like. Don't put up with like, oh, that looks fine, that looks in the range. If it's not, or if it's a little elevated, I'm big on heart health, and if anyone wants to talk about that afterwards. But a coronary CT scan is $100 out of pocket, and it's valuable. It will tell you how much plaque buildup you may have. You'll get a score. It's nothing you need to do yearly, but every few years, it's vital. It's vital. So that, and then and keeping up on your fish oil and all those others. Did you have any other supplement thoughts, Dave? I know when you came in, you were like, oh, maybe some.
Calcium with it together.
Yes, and if you take a calcium supplement, it always has D in it, but not the reverse, right? So I like a multi. That pendulum swings too for a while. You get everything you need through your diet. I don't trust our as much. Yeah, and so there can be little minerals that get missed, I think, and I don't know. It feels like a little bit of an insurance policy is all. Oh, yeah.
Well, especially being African American.
Yep. Helps with, that'll help bone health. Yeah, you absolutely could put them together. Again, I think like Viactive Chews have all of that. Have the D, calcium, and the K. Makes it kind of easy in one little Tootsie Roll kind of chew. So that's nice. Yeah. The Viactive, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all about gummies. I take some of my
What I'm talking
vitamin
about.
Oh,
Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
good call. Might just get on that train. Might just get on that train. That was a good
That
thought.
works, that works. Yeah. There's a lot of forms. I'm I'm doing glycinate at night, but I think mag oxide would be reasonable. You can't find them?
The oxiding one, I was told that too. I did the glyphosate, but.
Yeah. I think I had the Mac was just like again, I feel like it was at CVS and Nature's Made or something, but you could, yeah. But yeah, I know there's like a dozen magnesium forms, which is really annoying.
But one little just note on that stuff. I think all that stuff's like really important. And I think Sue would say the same thing. Like all the supplement stuff like can be really useful, especially if we have deficiencies in those things. But one thing I try to there'll be a lot of people who come with really like their diet's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Their sleep's maybe all over the place. Their hydration's not like really on point. And then
Optimized,
but
yeah.
they'll be asking most of their questions about supplements, like what should I take? Should I be taking, like should I be taking creatine? Should I take
Yeah.
protein? And right. It's like I think that
about
the
that?
supplements are a great supplement
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
focusing on, don't miss the forest for the trees. So
Yeah.
Establish on those basics first, and then
Yeah.
I think that's where it can really be beneficial to add in
More
these supplements.
fine-tuning.
Yeah,
Fine-tuning,
fine-tuning some of
fine-tuning.
these deficiencies. But I think sometimes we can over focus on that stuff and kind of lose sight of like the main
Right.
thing that we need
That-
to emphasize.
point.
So just one last
I
little.
had, wait a minute, one
leading
last
point.
quote I forgot
Yeah.
to say. A lot of us are still eating like we're 25, but training like the powerhouses we are at 45 or 55. If you feel you're working twice as hard for half the results, it's not you, it's a fueling mismatch. So anyway, it is kind of a good thing to keep in mind that we can get so frustrated with ourselves, women of an age, when this menopause thing hits. And it's like, we don't get frustrated with our height. It's genetically determined, right? So we don't get mad at ourselves. We can get so mad at ourselves about like the weight thing, like it's our fault or whatever. So just, like I say, give yourself a little grace around this. And we're all doing the best we can. And you're here at Flight doing your strength training, which is, yeah, more than half the battle. So yeah, I think it's good.
Thank you so much, Sue, for
Thank
coming
you.
and helping out.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's good.
I hope this was helpful.
Yeah.
Would like to do more of these kind of things, but if any of you guys have any other questions that you think of after, or just things you've been thinking about once you start to dive into your homework,
Yeah.
don't hesitate to reach out. I'd love to have those conversations and meet for a little bit, do a nutrition consult if not.
Alex.
But thanks everybody for coming. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. Yeah. Great.
Nice job.
Oh, yeah, nice job. That was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was great.
See you tomorrow.
No, Friday, I think so. Yeah.
Don't.
Yeah.
I train super.
And this was a good reference book if anybody wants. There's so many out there, but I like these.
My ear.
Yeah.